The PlayStation Store is still running its excellent indie game sale right now, and I promised you guys that we'd be taking a look at games under the price of $10. We already did a video looking at games under the price of $5, so obviously none of those are going to be mentioned. So realistically, we're looking at games from the price of $5.01 to $9.99. And let's not keep you guys waiting, let's get right into it, and let's start things off with Axiom Verge, which is 60% off for $7.99. I recently talked about how PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 owners are going to be able to play Axiom Verge 2 this summer. Thankfully, it was initially only announced for PC and Nintendo Switch, but yes, we will be getting it on PlayStation as well. And you should go back and play Axiom Verge 1. 60% off for $7.99 is such a great deal for this excellent Metroidvania title. If you want something that's a throwback to those old school Metroid titles, Axiom Verge is going to be right up your alley while having that old school flair to it. It also is great for a modern audience as well. I love the visual style. It has a good bit of content and it really has the essence of Metroidvania just right in there. And it's showcased throughout, and $7.99 might be one of the lowest prices I've seen it for. I've seen it go on sale a couple of times for $9.99, but $8 for it I think is a really good pickup. And again, with Axiom Verge 2 on the horizon, now would be a really good time to pick it up. Alright, next up, we have The Messenger, which is a $9.99 standard. However, if you are a Plus subscriber, you save an additional 10% and you'll get it for $8. The Messenger is also a bit of a throwback. We're gonna have a couple of these when we talk about these cheaper indie titles, but it's a game that has a very, very old school look, a little bit challenging, but definitely something a bit of a throwback. You've got a variety of gameplay and different locales. The locales themselves look great. Even in this old school style, you could tell that there's been a considerable amount of detail put into it, and also the music is excellent in this game, and there's a pretty good story in there as well, so go check it out, and through a pretty enjoyable experience. Okay, the Talos Principle Deluxe Edition is 80% off for $9.99. Talos Principle is a game that I often recommend. I played it on PC when it came out, I want to say back in 2014, and it's a game that I ended up really enjoying, even though it's a puzzle game, and I'm not big on puzzle games, but this is one that I got pretty into. It's a first-person puzzler with a very philosophical take to it. It's got some pretty cool thematics going on for it as well, and if you're a fan of the sci-fi presentation, something that's going to be right up your alley. Again, if you're not big on puzzle games, this is one where maybe step out of your comfort zone a little bit and do go check it out, because I ended up really enjoying it, much like The Witness. That was another puzzle game that I ended up enjoying, even not being a big fan of the genre. The Talos Principle is one that at this point a lot of people don't talk about, but I thought it was quite good, and there's quite a few puzzles in this game. I think there's north of 100, so quite a good amount of content. Typically goes for $40, actually $50 for this deluxe edition, but you can get it right now for $9.99. Okay, moving on from that, we have yet another Metroidvania title, a little bit more of a charming one, maybe a little one to take a little bit less seriously. Guacamelee 2 Complete Edition for $6.89. Guacamelee 1 is also very good, but Guacamelee 2 to me kind of came out of nowhere, where the game isn't something, you know, you look at it and you don't take it that seriously. You play as a luchador Juan, and you're doing like some crazy wrestling moves on these enemies that you're gonna fight, but it ends up being a very, very enjoyable Metroidvania title, and it's one that unfortunately hasn't really stood the test of time in Metroidvanias, in the sense of, you know, a Dead Cells is going to be talked about for years and years. Guacamelee 2 came out in 2018, and it's not like Guacamelee is heralded as one of those best Metroidvania franchises, but it really holds up right up there. It's got a great presentation style, and if you're a fan of like luchador and elements like that, I feel like you're going to get really into some of the presentation elements that they also throw in there. It's a humorous game, but also at the same time, there's an incredible amount of detail that's been put into it. Go check it out for $6.89. I really do think this is a good pickup again, especially if you are a fan of your Metroidvanias. Okay, next up, The Wolf Among Us is 60% off for $5.99. I often talk about Telltale, how great of a studio they are. I played a lot of their titles. Borderlands The Handsome Collection is awesome. The Walking Dead titles are awesome, but number one to me is The Wolf Among Us. The Wolf Among Us tells a very, very serious story, and not to say that Walking Dead doesn't, but you get very invested into these characters, and it's one that I found myself replaying quite a few times. Like, I feel like I beat this game on a lot of different platforms. I played it on PC, played it on PlayStation 4, and I've just had a really good time with it, and thank the heavens that there is going to be a Wolf Among Us Season 2, Part 2, whatever you want to call it. It was a little bit dicey with everything going on with Telltale, but we do know that's ultimately going to be coming. Hopefully we see that in 2022, but definitely a great starting point for the franchise, and it is a fantastic game with an awesome main character. One of the best main characters that unfortunately doesn't get the love of being one of the best MCs in gaming, but definitely go check out The Wolf Among Us. $6 for it is very good. A great pickup here. Next up, if you're a horror fan, you gotta check out Outlast 2. It is 80% off for $5.99. Outlast was one of those games that kind of took the world by storm as far as horror experience goes. Came out and it just was getting a lot of popularity. Everybody was streaming it. You guys get the deal. Outlast 2, in my opinion, is a better game than Outlast 1. Maybe that's a little bit of a controversial opinion. Outlast 2 does suffer from the fact that it doesn't have, like, the shock factor that Outlast 1 had. Like, Outlast 1 was pretty crazy going into it, and it's a pretty wild experience, but I actually liked Outlast 2 more. Both games are great. Both games are on sale. Outlast 1 is $4. Outlast 2 is $6. Outlast 2 meets the price threshold, so I'm going to recommend this one. However, I would highly recommend you to play Outlast 1 as well. This is not for the faint of heart. If you are not a fan of horror games, I probably would not play this. But if you're a fan of the genre, or you just want to wait until it gets closer to Halloween and maybe it'll be a timely title to play then, I think Outlast is a pretty psychological and horror-driven experience that anybody can get an enjoyable experience out of, unless they are absolutely petrified by horror titles. I don't think those people would enjoy the game, but overall, Outlast 2 was a very enjoyable title, and hopefully we see more out of Red Barrels very soon, the development studio, that is. Okay, next up, Risk of Rain 2 is $9.99. This game is fantastic, especially if you have a group of people to play with. Maybe you played the original Risk of Rain and you had one sense of what the game was, and Risk of Rain 1 was awesome, don't get me wrong, but Risk of Rain 2, from a presentation standpoint, completely turns the game on its head, and Gearbox and the development studio behind Risk of Rain 2 have been doing a really good job in keeping the game updated and fresh, and they offer you a lot of content for the money. Like, to give you guys an idea of how committed they were to this game and making sure a lot of people played it, when this game dropped in early access on PC, I want to say back in like 19, it was a buy one, get one free right off the bat. Like, if you bought the game, you were able to gift a copy of the game to a friend for free. So they were really trying to get people into the game, and it was a great cooperative experience, and I think that enhanced the game when it was in early access, where, you know, you bought a copy and then your friend jumped in and you could have this great cooperative experience, and that's how I would ideally recommend you to play the game. You can play it solo, definitely, but when you're playing with a couple buddies, that's how you're going to get the best experience. Great visual style. Like I said, Risk of Rain 1 had one visual style. Risk of Rain 2 completely different, but it's a gorgeous game nonetheless. It's been received very, very strongly, and for $9.99, I believe this is the cheapest I've seen it for on the PlayStation Store. Now would be a great time to pick it up, especially if you can convince a buddy to pick it up as well. Okay, next up, another game with a great visual style that's a throwback to old games, and that is Hyper Light Drifter, done by Heart Machine. By the way, Heart Machine is doing a brand new game called Solar Ash, and that game has been pretty present during this E3 week. But nevertheless, Hyper Light Drifter is a fantastic, fantastic game with a phenomenal soundtrack, great pixel graphics, and, you know, a lot of games are doing pixel graphics, and the games I've mentioned on this list are doing pixel graphics, but not all pixel graphics are created equally, and Hyper Light Drifter is really a showcase of that. This game's pixel graphics, yes, well, it's a throwback to games that you might have played on the Super Nintendo. It also modernizes it, and I think even if you were somebody that was born in the 2000s, you'd look at this game and you'd be like, wow, this is a visually and aesthetically pleasing game. And again, fantastic soundtrack. If you're a fan of those old school Zelda titles and you want a modern look of that, Hyper Light Drifter is gonna be right up your alley. And for just $5.99, this is a great pickup to go for. And then play this, get excited for Solar Ash, because that's supposed to be coming in 2021. Next up, Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice, 70% off for $8.99. Another game that I often recommend. It is a great title by Ninja Theory. Of course, Ninja Theory has been acquired by Microsoft, so we will not be getting Hellblade 2 on the PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5. I will be playing that on my PC, and I will be having a great time with it, but you should definitely go back and check out Senua's Sacrifice. It's a shorter game. You can complete it rather quickly, But this is a game that really tackles a lot of psychological and mental themes that makes it a very engrossing and atmospheric experience. Like, this is one of those games that really absorbs you into the world. And while, again, not the lengthiest game in the world, for the 7 to 8 hours that you're going to play it for, you are going to be absolutely absorbed into the experience, and it's a great title. Again, figure out a way to play Hellblade 2, because I imagine that game is going to be tremendous, and it looks to be a full big budget title instead of being a $30 budget title. But yeah, for now, play Senua Sacrifice and you're gonna have a great time with it. And lastly, I want to give a shout to Gris, which is 60% off for $6.79. Now, this is a game that I saw a couple people in my comment section recommend me to play a few months ago, and I've known about this game for a very, very long time. But I finally took the plunge and played it about a month or two ago, and it's a very, very short game. But guys, I waited way too long to play this game in its entirety because I played it way, way back, but only played a little bit of it. This is a short game. You can probably complete it in around 3 or so hours, but right away when you look at this game from a visual standpoint, it is an absolutely gorgeous game. Now, at the same time, it's a relatively simplistic game. Don't go into this game thinking and expecting nuanced controls or nuanced gameplay elements, because it's really not like that. It's an atmospheric, engrossing platform adventure game that has very minimal storytelling, but it really comes together, and you can really tell that it's a beautiful game, to say the least. I mean, I feel like that is the best superlative to describe what Gris is. It's a game that I feel like has been very popular on PC, but a lot of people didn't check it out on PlayStation 4, so if you've yet to check it out, if you're okay with it being a very, very short game, but one that I could see you going back to, you know, every year or so, then Gris is definitely going to be a good pickup. And at $6.79 instead of its initial, you know, $17 price tag, was it? Yeah, $17 price tag. It's going to be something that I feel like a lot of people enjoy, especially if you dig games like Flower, Journey, and games like that. Gris is going to be right up your alley if you want something that's a little bit more sit down and you just enjoy the overall presentation that Gris offers, instead of expecting really compelling gameplay, because that's not what Gris is trying to deliver. You're really going to enjoy it from that end. So that is going to do it for this video. Again, there's a lot of great deals as a part of this indie sale. There's a lot of games that I didn't play as well. Like, I got to get around to playing Cat Quest 2, and just going through this sale, I was seeing a lot of games. Oh, I need to play that, I need to play that, I need to play that. But from what I know about, these are all games that are really good and also offer a variety of different gameplay styles. You got your Metroidvanias with Axiom Verge and Guacamelee 2. The Messenger is a great 2D action platformer. Talos Principle if you're looking for something more of a puzzler. Outlast 2 for your horror buffs. Risk of Rain 2 for a co-op title. Hyperlight Drifter is excellent. Hellblade Senua Sacrifice is a cool psychological action title, even though we probably won't be getting the second one on PlayStation. And Gris is a great title as well if you're looking for something more evocative. That's going to wrap up this one. Sound off with all of your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.